Democratic presidential candidate and former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg might have his own Khalidi tape. What's that, you ask? Well, we'll get to that in just a sec. Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is Right Angle, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. All right, you may remember that long before he became president or even ran for president, Barack Obama made an appearance at some Palestinian fundraising dinner thing down in Los Angeles and gave a speech. And the Los Angeles Times actually has the speech on tape, but refuses to release it or discuss it or anything. So maybe Barack Obama was there just saying nice things, or maybe he was chanting death to Israel and all the rest of the nasty leadership, or maybe he was giving them a sister soldier moment and saying, hey, you've got to make peace. We don't know, because they won't release the tape, and Obama certainly isn't urging anybody to release the tape. Well, thanks to our friend Cam Edwards over at BearingArms.com, we know that Mayor Mike has a speech that he gave here in Colorado at the Aspen Institute in 2015. And even though the Aspen Institute releases all of their little think tanky speeches, Mayor Mike is not allowing to let this one be released, not after 4 years. And you're going to have a really good idea why when I tell you what's in there. All right, gentlemen, Cam writes, it turns out there's one very important speech that Bloomberg gave that's not featured in the new ad. He's talking about Mike's big new gun control ad that he's running in Super Tuesday states. In fact, even though it was recorded, he refused to allow the speech to be released. The Aspen Times summarized it this way, along with a direct quote. The Aspen Times wrote in 2015, Bloomberg argued that in order to save lives, police should seize guns from male minorities between the ages of 15 and 25. And this is an exact quote from Bloomberg. These kids think they're going to get killed anyway because all their friends are getting killed. So they just don't have any long-term focus or anything. It's a joke to have a gun. It's a joke to pull a trigger. And that was the end of the quote. And so, we're just going to seize things from minorities for their own good. Bill, we've been talking a lot in recent weeks about black voters and Kanye West and Trump's maybe not unexpected, but very welcome support that he's getting from African Americans. Do you think when something like this finally breaks, it's going to make an even bigger difference?
It would make a difference if anybody gave a damn about Mike Bloomberg. I mean, that might have an effect.
But isn't this the kind of thing that poisons an entire party?
Well, no. I mean, it certainly. I mean, gun control is not the Republican Party position. It is certainly the Democratic Party position. Yeah. The Republican who used to be a Republican who was really a Democrat is now running as a Democrat who may be a Republican, and I don't care. I really don't care. I have to tell you, I think the biggest disqualifying aspect of Mike Bloomberg's candidacy is the fact that he actually thinks people would be willing to vote for him. I think to be that deluded and that detached from reality is an indication that you're not fit to hold office. I mean it sincerely. I really do. When you get down to things like this, Steve, obviously this is the same guy who decided that you couldn't have a certain size soda in New York. They'd make it illegal to sell you a large soda because that was bad for you. And so instead of a 16-ounce soda, people would buy two 12-ounce sodas, which if you do the math, turns out to be even more bad. But I guess what I'm really getting at here is where would this country be without New York billionaires telling us what values we should hold dear and how we should live our own lives. New York billionaires and Hollywood celebrities, the two people that are most in touch with the day-to-day realities of life here in the United States, are the ones who seem to be the most vocal about telling us what to do. And I find that a little bit absurd.
Just a little bit. Now, when you say New York billionaires trying to tell us what to do, I assume that you're leaving Donald Trump out of this because he's turned out to be a fairly conservative, fairly libertarian president, not trying to tell us what to do.
That's precisely right. Donald Trump is not telling us what to do. I have yet to hear him tell us what to do or what would be best for us. I've heard him defend himself. I've heard him attack other people, and I've certainly seen him create an incredible economy, not to mention a pretty good foreign policy as well. But I've never heard him lecturing us on what to do. I don't think I can think of a single case of him saying, here's what you should do. He's saying, if you vote for me, you'll make America great again, and certainly seems to be working. But this is the difference between the progressives and the conservatives. Conservatives think that basically it's all pretty simple. Do whatever you want to, so long as you don't hurt anybody else. Got it? Any other questions that I can help you with? But Democrats have a plan. Citizen. Democrats have a plan for everything, and Elizabeth Warren is proud of the fact that this out of touch professor who lies about her ethnicity so she can get cushy promotions. She's proud of the fact that she's got a plan for everything. That there's nothing in a country that Liz hasn't got a plan for. Liz has a plan for that, and that I've got a plan for that kind of thing. It's just awful. And there's a line from, what is it? It's from David Bowie, China Girl. I'll give you television. I'll give you diamond.
I'll give you a man who wants to rule the world.
Yeah. And there was gosh, I've completely forgotten now. Plans for everyone. That's plans for everyone. That's what we're selling. My plan for your life.
A little music trivia for you. Iggy Pop originally recorded that in 1976, I believe.
My God, I'd love to hear that version.
Yeah, David Bowie co-wrote it with Iggy Pop. And then, of course, Bowie's version in 1983 or 4 went on to become the big hit. Anyway, music trivia aside, Scott, let me kind of set the stage for you. Imagine you're one of the other 407 Democratic presidential candidates, and Mike Bloomberg is skipping the early primary states, essentially. He's not bothering with Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. What he's doing is he's betting big on Super Tuesday and in California, which are huge, expensive media buys. And he and Tom Steyer also are basically trying to crowd the other candidates out of these huge, delicate contests by buying up the airwaves in ways that only a couple of billionaires can afford to do. So as you're looking at Bloomberg trying to essentially buy you out of the election, do you hit him with this and risk alienating the minority voters that you're going to need down the line? Or do you think, ooh, gun control, good? Or what do you do?
Well, first of all, I mean, he's starved for attention right now. So the last thing in the world I want to do is give him attention. Doing a bunch of TV commercials is no longer the way to make yourself really well known at the grassroots level. And frankly, he'd be much smarter to, hang out with Amy Klobuchar and go door to door in Des Moines. But you can't just bypass all this. There have been candidates in the past that have attempted to do that. I believe Rudy Giuliani himself was one of those that thought he could get into the race late and found out the consequences of that. But Steve, this thing that he allegedly said in Aspen, to me, encapsulates perfectly.
It's not allegedly. It's on the record. It's just he won't release the tape.
Yes. Well, we don't have the tape, and so we're now relying on other people's, recollections or reporting about it. But let's just say he said this. It perfectly encapsulates everything about progressivism and really illustrates why we should avoid it like the plague. I mean, first of all, you're talking about he's put his finger on a problem that he immediately thinks can be solved by armed government action. So it's not just government policy, because people who have guns don't necessarily, when you knock at their door, they don't necessarily say, "Just a moment, officer, let me go pull them all together and bring them to the front door for you."
I forgot the ones I had buried out back. Hang on one second,
yes,
sorry.
I'll be right back in a moment. So number two, he aggregates people. So this is typical of progressivism. You can't talk about individuals, you talk about groups of people. In this case, number three, while his party appears to care about Black Americans, he actually tremendously disrespects Black Americans, because he says Black Americans are the ones we have to be concerned about, who are actually who are the risk. So we've got to take their guns away. Number three, the solution involves lost liberty. So that's, we put our finger on a problem. It can be solved by armed government action. It's involving an aggregate of people. And the solution is to take liberty away from those people. And then finally, even though the Democrats try to position themselves as being the party that appeals to the young, Who's he going after here but the young? Do the Democrats, do the progressives really respect young Black Americans? No. They're just another couple of groups of people that they have aggregated for purposes of stealing their liberty.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? Let me give you a little thought experiment here. Let's say that Bloomberg had gone to the Aspen Institute conference 4 years ago and said what we really need to do to avoid these racial hate crimes is to go down to Georgia and start taking firearms away from 15 to 25-year-old white boys before they join the Klan. Do you think maybe he'd be proud of that statement and would be releasing that thing? I don't know. But what I do know is that if he had, the press would certainly be making a field day out of this. And they're not. In this case, we've got one report dug up by Cam Edwards from 2015 about this speech. And what I find most interesting about this is I am just old enough to remember in age that when a politician didn't want to talk about something, it's the only thing that the press wanted to talk to them about. And I love those days. And this isn't a Democrat or Republican thing. I think all politicians need to be under the microscope, under the magnifying glass, under the heat lamp of media attention all the time, 100% of the time that they're out in public. You got to give them their private lives, right? But the less they want to talk about something, the more the media should be asking it. Why don't you want to talk about this thing you said? Why don't you want to talk about this thing you did? And dig into it. Find out. This is how we got Watergate. This is how we found out just exactly how corrupt Nixon could get when he thought he was cornered. This was an important thing to know for the health of the republic. Getting Bill Clinton on the record about a stained blue dress. Also important for the health of the republic. We need a press that digs into the things that politicians don't want to talk about. It's good for the country. So come on, journalists, do your job. That's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Content like this, remember, need sponsors like you. So if you like this kind of thing, please go on over to BillWhittle.com, become a member. We would love to have you on board. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.